Real quickly, I want to close with this. Let's go back to James. James chapter 4. Because I want to show you what can ruin your friendship. It's the same thing that ruins a marriage. James, remember, he's the one that called Abraham the friend of God. Did you know he has a little weigh-in on how to maintain that friendship? James chapter 4, verses 4 and 5. What he says is, adulterers and adulteresses. He's talking about the marriage relationship, which God calls his relationship with Israel and with us, that we're engaged to him to be married at the marriage supper of the Lamb and all that. And he says, if you're engaged to me, why are you pouring out your love on someone else? And so he calls lack of loyalty to him adultery. And he says this, and this is what's amazing. Do you not know that friendship with the world ruins your friendship with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. By the way, what is the world? The word cosmos, the world, doesn't refer to the physical earth. Doesn't mean you don't like trees and plants and fish and stuff like that. It speaks of the man-centered, Satan-directed system. Fallen world in enmity against God. Basically, worldliness is being self-centered because Christ says, if you love me, you will be self-sacrificing. Salvation turns us from being self-centered to being God-centered. We sacrifice ourselves for Him. And so the worldliness is self-centeredness, godless value system, being into self-glorying, self-fulfillment, self-indulgence, self-satisfaction. Did you know that describes the world? I mean, when you look at the world, it's go for the gusto, get all you can. You're only in here once. Go for everything you can get. Amass and think of primarily of yourself. Be the center of your life and have everything piled around you. Kind of like the way the king of Assyria, remember I told you about the guy that skinned people alive and piled their heads? Did you know that the last king of Assyria was conquered by the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, his crew? And the king of Assyria, who was so wealthy, he had hundreds of wives, he had pillaged and skinned people alive and taken all their jewels. He gathered all that around him in the palace, piled it all up, put his throne on the top of the pile, and had his servants set fire. And he burned all of his clothes, all of his furniture, and everything. As the Babylonians were breaking down the walls of Nineveh, the king of Assyria burned alive with his stuff. He wanted it so bad he didn't want anybody else to have it. That's the essence. That's quintessential worldliness. That I don't want anybody to have my stuff. I'd rather destroy it than have you have it. Well, what are some tips? Abraham, I already told you this. 100-year-old Abraham ran toward God. When God came to visit his tent, he was his servant, and we don't need all that. Let's end with this. Because it's time to go. It's 10 o'clock, and for once I'm going to end on time. Okay? I love a little chorus, and I want you to think about it. As you leave this retreat weekend, I want you to think that the greatest thing, the greatest treasure we have in life is knowing and loving and serving God, who writes us little notes for every day of our life. And when we check in to the new day, kind of like at the hotel desk, the clerk says, "Oh, I have a letter for you." Did you know where the Bible fits in your daily schedule is a remarkable indicator of how much we love the one who loved us first. And Jesus said, if you have my commandments and guard them, in other words, you want to know what I said and you want to respond to them, which is basically what our devotions are about. Devotions, time in the Word, is expressing our devotion to God. That's how we keep His Word. We know what it says, and after we read it, we pause and we say, Lord, I don't want to just be a hearer of the Word, I want to be a what? Doer. See, the most important part of devotions is the application part at the end. You know, personally what I do when I have a little notebook and I write down what I've read in the Bible. In fact, most of these sermons are what I've read in the Bible, and I'm just telling you. And at the end, I always reserve time to apply it, not to you, not to my wife. A lot of people read the Bible for somebody else. Go, I found a good verse for you. Do you know what I'm supposed to read the Bible for? For me to know how to love, respond. And so I actually write out prayers. And I say, Lord, you said if you love me, keep your commandments, Lord. I do love you today. And I ask for your grace to respond in obedience to what I've read today.